When the world is just too much, turn it off and turn on positive, encouraging K-Love.
I'm gonna praise.
World off, K-Love on.
K-Love is sunshine for my soul.
I love K-Love.
Listen now on your radio, online, or on the free K-Love app.
K-Love makes me feel so good.
Positive, encouraging K-Love.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation, as usual, as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about dementia change. We will.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks. I'm thrilled you can join us today. We have one of our favorite peeps back with us, Tracy Cram Perkins, and she's going to be talking about how to make your home more senior and dementia friendly. She is absolutely brilliant. She's a 4-time caregiver survivor, and she knows what she's talking about and how to put it into practical terms for all of us. But before I introduce you to Tracy, I just want to recommend that people visit Alzheimer Speaks. Go to our free educational resource section. There's tons of things there, as well as our sister company, Dementia Map, which is a global resource directory. If you have a service product or tool and you're not listed in there yet, reach out to me or click on the button and go ahead and submit yourself. And I will vet you and we'll get you up and running. And last, I just like to give a shout out to my webmasters, Q for Good. If you're looking for somebody who is absolutely fantastic, reasonable in their price, knows what they're doing, and meets deadlines, check out Q for Good. Now, with no further ado, let's meet Tracy. Well, Tracy, I am so excited to have you back with us. I absolutely adore you, and the work you're doing is so powerful and so helpful to families. So, A, thanks for taking the time to come back on with us. And B, will you please share a little bit about yourself with our audience? Because not everybody probably heard you last time you were on.
Well, Lori, thank you, first of all, for bringing me back. I'm very excited to be here. And for those of you that don't know me, I am a 4-time dementia caregiving survivor, and I cared for 4 family members from diagnosis to after death, and it was a very challenging experience. I won't say I know everything in the book, but I have a book here that knows more than I do.
Well, and your book is fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And we'll talk about that and the programs that you're doing. And you've just gotten so creative, I think, in your approach. And you're so easy to talk to. I mean, sometimes, I'll have people on the show or just in meetings in life, and you're like, oh, this is a difficult conversation. You just don't always feel like you're talking on the same level. And you just ease people right away, just with your personality and style and empathy for the journey, understanding it. And that's, to me, that's massive. Absolutely massive. So you said you are a 4-time caregiver survivor. Of those, did you have people with dementia?
Oh, everyone in my family had dementia. My mom had postoperative cognitive decline, otherwise known as anesthesia dementia. My dad had full-blown Alzheimer's. My aunt and uncle both had diabetes and were on their way into or in dementia by the time I was caring for them. So they would be Alzheimer's disease. We also had some issues with vascular dementia for other family members. So I've had a little bit of a gum dip into Alzheimer's disease, though.
Yeah, I guess so. Now, given the prominence in your family, does that make you nervous at all?
Well, the interesting part about that is those that took care of their diabetes and they managed their diabetes staved off the Alzheimer's disease until they had another health issue that caused them to go into Alzheimer's disease. So I understand now from that journey that if I take care of myself, if I exercise, if I manage the sugars and everything else within my body, that I will lower my chances of just diving off the cliff like a lemming.
Yep. Yeah, I know people always ask me that question too, and I'm a firm believer you can carry a gene, but it might not hatch, and just kind of like with cancer, all those other types of things, your genes aren't always your destiny, and I really think too, staying active is so critical. Once you start withdrawing, to me, that's when the writing's on the wall in terms of trajectory a lot of times of not just dementia but a lot of diseases and things with that. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Let's dive into kind of you really work on the house and how to make the house dementia and kind of senior friendly and stuff. Let's talk about color. How do you leverage color and what the heck does that mean? Because most of us are looking through the magazines going, oh, this is the in color. And it has nothing to do with the in colors, I'm assuming, when it comes to making your house safe.
Oh, you are so right. It is not the in colors, although it could be. But what I talk about when I'm talking about colors, think about when we're aging and our eyes, the lenses start to thicken and it gets a little hard to see without having bright light. So we need more contrast. As we have aging, we also have our brain shrinking just a little bit as we age, not to the extent of brain disease, but it's shrinking just enough. It makes it a little more difficult to perceive things. So color can be used to make things more visible and make it easier to find things. And I know you and I have talked about this in the past. If we want to orient somebody that is having trouble finding something or they lose something completely, we can say, let's take the color red and we'll use it to highlight what we're going to create as a parking space for that person and their TV remote because they keep losing the TV remote. If you make a parking space for them, think about when you were working or are still working and you had a paid parking space. You would fight to the death to keep your parking space. We're going to employ that with our loved one. And so if they keep losing it, and this is kind of what we do with my dad, is I got a red napkin because I didn't know any better for anything else. And I put the napkin on there and I stuck a little placard on the wall based on something that one of my friends had done, which was put a parking pass on there saying, this is Eldon's parking space. And it showed where his little remote on it. And, so that he had a placard. And so he stopped losing his remote. For the most part, that isn't perfect, but I mean, he kept putting it back because he knew that was his parking space. He kept it. And so we were able to anchor him. I then found out later that I needed to change the colors. Whenever we were having a problem, I needed to change up the color because it's kind of like how we put Post-it notes on the mirror for our New Year's resolutions. And 2 weeks in, we never look at it again because we know what it says. Well, it's the same thing. They get bored with the color. If I change it to a bright yellow or an orange or lime green, and I do that every couple weeks, it keeps the attention drawn to it because there's change. And so that's what I'm talking about with color.
Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense. I know a lot of people over the years, and especially if you go into senior communities, they will talk about the use of color at the table, because a lot of times everything is just kind of that off-white beige type look. And, if they've got a white tablecloth with a white plate, it's like, where is it? And then you got mashed potatoes and cauliflower on there, again, where is it? Because it all looks the same. And I didn't realize that until I got into real estate. The aging eye thing. I remember my mom saying, she needed more light, so then I needed more light. And I was like, I'm fine. I can see whatever, I can do my homework in the dark. What's wrong with you? But now I'm 67 and I understand that much more. I need bigger print and more contrast to be able to define things. And I saw even Norms McNamara, I don't know if you saw the article the other day he wrote about. Over there, they were using like yellow plates. And over in America, we've always used red. And then now he's big on the red, plates because it's just so much easier. Or, people don't always realize, I mean, it can be dementia, it can be aging, but it could be a stroke where they're looking straight ahead, but they're seeing to the right or the left. And so they're not seeing what's right in front of them. And so those color differentiations make a huge difference. I've seen them for light switches, toilet seats, pretty much anything. I'm going to have to try the remote though, because we just lost one of our remotes in memory care the other day for our loved one. And that was a little testy process of being able to find that, because she knew exactly where it was, but it wasn't, and can't differentiate. We have 2 different remotes for 2 different TVs in there and things. So thank you for talking about color. What about like wall color and things like that? Do you have recommendations for wall color?
Oh, absolutely. Depending on what you're using it for. If you have, like, I had a family member that was a great escape artist. We refer to him now as Houdini. He was my father, and he could figure out how to get out of almost anything. When we figured out how to employ color and we painted the walls, the door, and the door jamb all the same color, then it became harder for him to see. But that didn't mean that he wasn't sharp enough to notice us walking in and out and figured out where the door was. I talked to somebody the other day about how they had a family member in skilled care, and the person was trying to go for a walk, and the walls were all painted the same color. And so she was walking around with a big smile on her face as she put her hand on the door, just tap, tap, tap all the wall until she found the door. Fortunately, the caregiver found her before she exited. But, it happens. And then when they talked to her about it, she smiled and laughed because they didn't confront her or scold her. They just said, "Mary, are you trying to go for a walk?" And she said, "Yes."
Yeah. When my dad was in a nursing home, he had brain cancer. He'd taken a bad fall, but he was always trying to leave and escape. And so, and he was on, I want to say, the 3rd floor. And they had on the 1st and the 2nd floors, back in the day, Polaroid pictures of "Don't let Dean escape," because he would maneuver his way out. And, in some places, and I don't see this too much anymore. I don't know if you do, but they used to put like black rugs in front of the elevator because people would think they were holes, and then they wouldn't go to the elevator. Or some of them would even put them around nurses' desks so their stuff wouldn't go missing, or people wouldn't be hanging out, disrupting them when they're trying to do their work. But there's a lot of different things that come into play. I remember my mom too. She would be a foot tapper, when the colors would change. So if she would go from asphalt to cement to grass, that toe was out there dancing around, making sure it was solid ground before she stepped to avoid a fall. And a lot of times people don't know that's why they're doing that.
I love that you brought that up because you made me think about stairs. A lot of people can't see the contrast in the stairs. And when they get to that bottom step, if you don't have something outlining it, showing them that it's the bottom step, they can fall. And I've seen that happen recently, which is what brings it to mind, is that they didn't have that bottom step and they couldn't see it, and they went and fell. But it's contrast. It's finding the contrast. It's also helping somebody navigate if they can't see the handrails, maybe wrapping them in colored tape. And also using lighting to light the way, because they now come in colors. You were talking about the toilet seats that, they have lights under the toilet seats. They have colored toilet seats. There's a lot of new stuff out there that didn't used to exist 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, same even with handicap bars, like in the shower and around the toilet. You can get those in all different colors, and people always like, "I just want it to blend in so company doesn't see it." Well, company's going to see it. They're going to notice it. So make it useful, and then explain to them, educate them why, but I think people get so embarrassed, and it's like, no, we need to educate way more people.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
On this stuff, I mean, I go out to even restaurants and stuff, and I think they could do a much better job, especially those that cater to an older group, to make stairwells and bathrooms much easier to maneuver than what they are.
As we talked about, when we were younger, we didn't notice these things. It just was kind of like you're talking about the lighting. Oh, I don't see the lighting doesn't bother me. But we don't have that experience yet. How do we develop empathy if you're not teaching us that, this is harder for you? So when your mom was saying, I need more light, she was teaching us, and we just didn't hear it at that point because we didn't recognize that was that moment.
Yeah. It's just like, well, you're weird, that's goofy. That's kind of the attitude we have. Yeah. Some days I feel like I need one of those little miner hats on me, if I'm digging in the closet or something and trying to see, or sometimes even in my office, if I'm really tired, it's like, I just need more light. And I've got good light now, but initially that was kind of slides in on you, but then there's certain times it really takes you back. What a difference. Like if you're tired, or if I get dehydrated, I notice all of those things have an impact on that stuff, which, I didn't notice before because I didn't think it was an issue, but I see some of those things now. Let's talk about some of the things that you noticed and can share with us in simple terms of what you've learned about how the brain can change with dementia in terms of processing things.
Oh, the first time caregiving and being too young, I didn't recognize the signs of Alzheimer's disease. I chalked it up to grief. My mom had just passed, and my dad was doing all these behaviors that would be, perhaps similar to grieving. There's, depression, memory loss, all these things going on. What I didn't realize is that he had a brain disease. He was really good at covering it. And because of that, we just bought into it until he couldn't manage it anymore and put himself in a coma. So it's understanding the signs that it may not be grief and being able to ask a probing question when it's a parent-child relationship. Sometimes you don't wish to ask those questions because it seems like a violation of our parent. And when they're having that problem, sometimes you just need to ask not, well, what the heck's wrong with you, but more like, what makes you think this? Why do you think this is happening? What do you think caused this? Just ask probing questions, because then you can actually get kind of an idea of what's going on. As it starts progressing and you start noticing them withdrawing, that's a different story, because once they start going, as you've recognized, once they start going beyond the early stages, it becomes much more noticeable. And then it's convincing the rest of the family members that this is real. That's the other part to this, where as that brain is changing and their short-term memories going, and I'm arguing with them, why don't you remember? Which is like the worst thing I could possibly do to my loved one. I had that emotional issue that I couldn't cross that bridge at that time to get to their side to say, okay, wait, this is not them. This is me. I'm the one that's not letting go. I'm grieving also. And I didn't recognize that in myself. And why would I even understand that as I'm taking care of someone, because I'm so focused on the dementia and not about what I am as the caregiver.
Yeah. Well, when you had mentioned about sometimes we don't want to ask those questions, I think sometimes we don't want to know the answer either. We're in denial, and, we don't know we're in denial. I remember teaching a class one time about denial, and we had a break, and a woman she went outside and she just bawled. And I'm like, are you okay? I thought she got like a horrible, phone call or something in news. And she said, I'm one of them. I didn't know I was in denial until she's like, I thought I was doing really good, but you pointed out all these things that I'm sidestepping because I didn't want to feel it. And she's like, I'm sorry. It's just all coming out. I'm like, there's no reason to be sorry. This is tough stuff. And there's that grieving process going on both sides, that ambiguous loss. And that's one thing no one ever talks about, ambiguous loss for the person with dementia. They talk about it for the caregiver noticing these changes, but no one really talks about what the person because they're noticing those things too, if they admit it or not. And then you also mentioned about, then you got to convince the family that something's going on because, man, they can muster it up and put on a show really good, for a half an hour. And they look like, yep, we're all here. There's no problems. And then they leave and kind of melt into the chair because it just takes so much out of them, to do that. But everybody wants to fit in. And my mom was like your dad. She covered it up really good, really good. But people don't, I think, always understand that they kind of switch their conversation. So they're more reminiscing because they notice those things. I think it's an unconscious shift. And, long-term memory is still there. It's, what happened 15 seconds ago that doesn't always remain.
I was watching a talk from some neurologists, and they were talking about what happens to the frontal temporal lobe where it stores all of our short-term memory. And they showed an image of that shrinking and developing holes. And for me, that was the most aha moment, was actually seeing what the brain was doing and realizing, okay, I understand now, post tense, that what the heck I was doing to my dad or anybody else when I was trying to go, don't you remember? And it also went with the confabulating, where they were taking whatever they heard 10 minutes ago and it's now their story, and it drives you crazy. Well, now I have enough distance that I can realize, okay, it didn't matter that much. Absolutely did not matter. It was just I was so tired I couldn't choose to make it not matter, which was a problem, at the time.
Yeah.
Now, if I had to do it over again, it might not be that much of an issue because I know conceptually and I know I could do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am caring for a loved one now, and I can be, and this is just recently, she just moved into memory care. And a lot of times when they make that move, things slide back because it's a huge adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
And she's lost her husband, she's lost her house, she's lost her son and her dog that lived with her. Now she's in a new place. Those are a lot of major things all at one time. And so all of a sudden she's calling me a friend of hers, when she used to work, it was her boss. And then her boss called, and she, when she was telling me I was Kathy, and he hands me the phone to talk to Kathy, and they're like, is something going on over there? And I said, yeah, things have changed. And she's like, and then they dropped in, the word dementia. And I said, yeah, we're dealing with that, but we don't use that terminology because it's not acceptable, and it was very interesting. So it's weird when someone, calls you by a different name or doesn't remember something that literally you talked about 10-15 seconds ago and asked the same question. And for me, it's been really interesting. Like we were talking offline, this is kind of my second personal route through this. When I dealt with it with my mom the first time, I was totally learning as I was going, on that thing. So I made a lot of mistakes, and, you just kind of kept course correcting to figure out what's going to keep the calm. And this time I know not to react when I'm called the wrong name or, whatever it might be. I just know to jump into it. But one thing I've had a struggle with a little bit, because before she moved into the house, we were really honest with her that her husband had passed. And she wanted to know that. And she was very thankful. And now what I'm seeing is that it's frustrating her that she doesn't remember, and she's still thankful, but I can see it's much more agitating. And so I think we're going to have to revert back to, well, Tom's still at work. Yeah, he'll be home a little later, and going with that story. And that I wasn't prepared to do for whatever reason. I guess I thought in my mind, you're either doing the fiblet or you're not. You're going with their story or you're not. And yet I know over all my years, everything, you have to be spontaneous, and you gotta be able to, correct on a dime, and the stories constantly change. But that one, I don't know why that surprised me at all. I guess I had it in my head that she wanted to know that, and because she talks about wanting to know the truth and wanting to be involved, but she doesn't really know what those words mean anymore in terms of processing. And so that was an interesting learning curve for me on that one.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because I just learned something new a couple months ago about this. One of my friends is taking care of her dad, and he kept asking about one of his children that passed. And so instead of saying he died, she said, let's make a video and tell him that you're thinking about him, and then I'll text it to him. And it took care of the emotional issue he was having, where he, had this grieving moment, didn't know why. And then he got to do something loving for his son and tell him how much he loved him. And it took care of it for both of them. And then she was just so happy. She showed me this video, and the difference between how he was before he started talking and when he started talking was night and day. It was just so incredible that I'm going to make sure I tell everybody I know this, and we're going to be telling them right now. But it is just an incredible gift you can give somebody who's going through that, and then you feel good too.
Yeah. It's really, you feel good once you can let go of the right and the wrong of the story. And there's some people that just can't let go of, no, that's not true, or I've never lied to my parent, or I've never lied to my spouse, and I'm not going to try now. I've heard a lot of that over the years. And I'm like, that's your choice. But then there's going to be this angst, and there's going to be this frustration, and they could end up getting aggressive. And you're going to get pulled into all of that because you feel guilty and you feel mad and you feel frustrated. This is a real simple way to sidestep and put them first in terms of what makes them feel happy, safe, and pain-free. And even with our loved one the other day, she was feeling anxious about something, and I thought we had walked through it. And then all of a sudden she's feeling like chest pains, and it was just heartbreak. She misses her husband, and it wasn't anything any more than that, but that's a lot. And to be able to empathize with that, and try to still be creative, and always think, what works today might not work tomorrow, it might not work 5 minutes from now, and just keep building that toolkit. So I really appreciate the things that you're sharing with us today, because I'm going to try a few of them here too. So thank you very, very much. I do want to kind of switch topics a little bit and talk about daylight and sundowning, and the hallucinations, and the falls, the unbalance, the just anxiety levels that can come. And, lighting can have a big effect on those things.
I love the fact that we're bringing up lighting. I was talking to somebody the other day about getting your daily dose of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Sorry, went blank. But when people are starting to sundown, at least if you're in the northern hemisphere, it can start as early as 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Using daylight lighting and a dimmer switch can be a tremendous help to just turn that light up and help the brain start building that up instead of flushing it out. Now, there's this recent study that just came out this month, I think, and it said that people that are sundowning, if you give them too much light towards the end of the day, it can cause the reverse effect, and they will end up being up all night because of the reverse effect. So it sounds to me like the happy medium is start turning the light up until like 5 o'clock at night and then turn it down so that they can start naturally going back. But I have seen in my own family that when we introduced daylight lighting, that didn't mean my dad wasn't still inverting sleep, but he was so much easier to play with and deal with and get him to do things when we had the light up, where it was just helping him see, helping him, kind of like a light box for people that have SAD, seasonal affective disorder. It's one of those things that it was helping his brain function better. I didn't realize the boomerang effect on it for the other end, because I would just keep it up until he went to bed, not realizing that that's probably why he was sitting on the throne in the middle of the night reading books, because he couldn't go to sleep. So I kind of missed the balance there, not shutting it down soon enough and watching when the sun actually was going down and turning it off. But giving him that extra dose in the afternoon made a big difference in my family. And so that's why I recommend that to people.
Yeah, kind of almost like the blue light with the computers.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, oh, they can, relax reading. And I'm like, you have to have a disclosure on. They're not on the computer, not on the iPad, because that's not going to help to the effect that it would, a hardcover book or a softcover book, something physically in their hand. And, I think we kind of poo-poo the effects on all of that quite a bit, and how they can mix up their day. I've noticed with my loved one, sometimes she won't turn her light on in her apartment, and so then it's dark, and she has no idea of time of day at all. But sometimes that happens when the lights are on as well, with the disease and stuff, the reminders of those things. And even just the meal times. I know for my mom, she could kind of track meal times in newscast times is how she told the day. But that doesn't always work for everybody, and it doesn't work forever.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
With things like that. What about, does more lighting reduce like hallucinations at all? Does that have an effect on any of that?
Well, it's interesting you asked about the hallucinations. I have found that, and I learned part of this from TIPA, is that if somebody with Alzheimer's disease is having a hallucination, it's probably an underlying infection. And so you want to treat for the underlying infection. Now, if it's somebody that has Lewy body dementia or Parkinson's with Lewy body, that is part and parcel of the disease. That comes with the disease. In which case, then it's important to learn how to de-escalate and address somebody's emotional needs when they are hallucinating, and then figure out what it is that triggered it, which may not be a physical thing. It might be just something the brain chemistry gave them. But there can also be things where it's glare, that it's, shadows, that it can be too much information, like a bunch of busy pictures, or it's something that's overwhelming. Even patterns in the carpet, checker floors on, black and white floors in the kitchen. All these different things can trigger a hallucination in someone who has a brain disease. And it's being able to say, okay, I can't see what you are seeing, but not deny that you are seeing it. I know that this is very real for you, and I can see that you're frightened. So let's get you out of here, and I will take care of this, and take them into another room. Make sure that you address their safety needs first. You maybe wrap them in a blanket, give them something warm to drink, whatever it is, because the other part is when they get scared, they get hypothermic. And so you don't want them to go into hypothermia. And you might have experienced this with your own mom. The best thing to do then is if you can take them back to the room and see if that has resolved the issue, because a lot of times just changing scene will change that. If it doesn't, let's say they're telling you they're seeing snakes on the carpet in their bedroom, then the thing is to take them out of the room, go back in, and you're going to walk in with their imagination. You're going to take a pillowcase with you because you're going to collect the snakes. You're then going to close the door so the snakes can't get out. You're going to look at that floor and see, okay, what is causing my loved one angst? What is it? Glare? Is it shadows? Is there, a sound coming in that's making them think that there should be snakes in the area? Whatever it is, and fix that. And if you can't, throw a bunch of socks in the bag, bring it out, say, I've gotten the snakes. And I'm going to get rid of the snakes. Just take that someplace and hide it. Okay. And then you can guide them back to the room when they're feeling safe and show them that the snakes are gone. Because if you take them all the way through the logical conclusion, a lot of times that will interrupt the brain chemistry and they'll be okay.
Yeah, I know Harry Urban, who's been living with dementia for quite a while, he shared a story on Dementia Chats. And he's given me permission to share this story, but it's really interesting. He was in his office working, and he was getting really paranoid. And he kept turning around thinking somebody's behind him, somebody's behind him, somebody's behind him. Finally, he was getting really frustrated, called his wife, Hazel, in. And Hazel's like, Harry, there's nobody here, And he's like, you just wait. And so she stood in the doorway and watched. And what it was so interesting. He had blinds in his office, and it was a bright sunny day. But when the clouds came over, it changed the lighting in the room, and it got darker, and he kept looking. And so all she had to do was shut the shades. Mm-hmm. And that got rid of one. The other one was when you mentioned the snakes in the room, Norms McNamara over in the UK, when he first started, talked about how he saw snakes in a carpet. And what it was a green carpet with kind of like a Jack and the Bean pattern that was gold. Mm-hmm. And he saw the gold coming up and was snakes to him. And, and so patterns can make a huge, huge difference. Mm-hmm. And once he told me that, and I had known that before from some courses I had taken in senior housing design and stuff years and years ago, but I didn't really apply it until he said that. And then I started going into, I don't care if it was a mall or senior housing or a restaurant, I would start seeing all these patterns that are like, these are huge issues for people. Or some places will have the carpet or the tile go up the wall. And that used to be a big thing in nursing homes. They'd roll the carpets so that the wheelchairs wouldn't mar up. Well, they didn't know the wall was there, and they thought it was just carpet. And so people would bang into the wall and then sometimes fall. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's just something when, for you and I, we see that that's normal, but they're not differentiating that, or they might not be looking at the whole wall to see, okay, up here, it's a different color, to know that, why that was done the way it was. A lot of times people are just looking at the floor and they're looking at that color and it's consistent. So in their mind, it's safe, so it's very interesting how all that stuff comes into play, which kind of rolls me into the fall prevention. I would think lighting has a lot to do with fall prevention.
Well, and you mentioned something earlier, which I want to circle back to address this. Mm-hmm. Tunnel vision. Mm-hmm. As the disease progresses, we get tunnel vision, but that doesn't necessarily mean, as you pointed out, that it's directly in front of us. It can be off to the side. It can be down here. And so they're going to be focusing on wherever they're looking. So if we've got uneven issues on the floor, if the coloring is different, if there's a pattern that they don't recognize, it could cause them to stumble because they don't want to step on something. They perceive it as something else. Mm-hmm. Also, if they're in skilled care, Are there handrails that they can hang on to keep them from falling? Also, are they doing exercises like, say, Tai Chi or something that works on balance, or Qigong or something else that might, help them develop the strength to keep them from, it'll be a stumble, not a fall. But you're also talking about the walls, looking at the base of the walls with the carpet rolling up. That is a big deal. I mean, if they can't see it, they can fall down. It's the same thing with us talking about highlighting the stairs. If they can't perceive it, how are they going to avoid the fall? It's us empowering them to be able to perceive it, whether it's going back to color, highlighting the steps, highlighting where the handrails are, highlighting with the light so that they can see and there's no shadow or glare, because we don't want them to be scared. We want them to feel secure. And, accidents happen because we don't see them. And on my website, on my resources page, I have a thing called the Meltdown Trigger List. And you can use that. It's download for free. You can use that to figure out what's going on with your loved one, whether it's temperature related, whether it's lighting, whether it's shadows, whatever might be triggering a behavior that's causing them to be unsafe, and then use it also as a respite tool so that once you've figured out how to de-escalate when something's happened, then you give that to anybody that comes in to do care and say, at the bottom, these are the things that will bring our loved one back to calm, so that you can go out and get 2 hours of relief, and then your loved one has a good time with whoever the family member or the caregiver is, because the caregiver already knows, okay, if I said this, oh my God, I need to do these steps to get them back to calm. And then the trust is rebuilt. So it's an important tool to help you get your loved one back to calm, and you get to go out and maybe go have a cup of coffee, or just go to the library and pick a book, or just take a walk. So it's nice to have tools.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. The Meltdown Trigger List, that is so helpful to prevent these things. And so much of this stuff is preventable. And when they don't feel safe, then, I think that amplifies their unsteadiness, on their feet. If they're not quite sure, it makes them a little bit more nervous. And I've noticed that a lot lately with people. And sometimes people will get up and they just kind of go to one side, or they go to the other side. They don't just kind of, get up and go straight anymore. Shoes can make a big difference. And my mom was big, I want to wear my sandals. And it's like, you can't wear your sandals. They're going to kill you. I mean, literally, because they just weren't safe for her. And that was a hard thing for us to dance around, because she loved her sandals, but we finally got her into tennis shoes. And, we all felt a little safer, but boy, was she mad for a while about that, but and again, some of it is picking your battles with all this stuff too. So, the fall prevention, I think, is huge, and keeping people hydrated. Sometimes people will stop drinking water because maybe they're having problems getting to the bathroom on time. And so that prevents that. Well, and the next thing you know, they're in the bathroom and they fell over and they cracked their head on the tub or the toilet because they're dehydrated, and we don't want that. I also noticed, I'm trying to think what community, because I'd love to give them credit for it. I think it was Abe's Garden down in Tennessee, and they had lights underneath their, and they were sensored lights underneath their nightstand. So as soon as their feet hit the ground, the lights were triggered there, where some people put, some sensor lights just in outlets, little night lights. So that helps, or leaving maybe a light on in the bathroom so people can find the bathroom, or the lights in the toilet so somebody can aim for the seat, that you can see. I mean, it sounds silly, but they make a huge difference, for a lot of people. And if you've got someone who gets up during the night and wanders, I mean, you don't want them tripping over floor mats, or there's the alarms that are out there, but the alarms can scare them and make them more unsteady in stuff too. And not all caregivers wake up to the alarms with that, or or cameras that will show if somebody kind of gets up during the night. But yeah, I think that lighting is so important with that. So, oh my gosh, you are just giving us such great information. Let's talk about sound and how that can really affect a person presenting with dementia as well.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Oh, sound. Sound is a very interesting animal. There are times, okay, we have to consider, let's say somebody has Alzheimer's disease. They're going to be developing tinnitus, and the tinnitus will get worse as it progresses. And so what they interpret and what we interpret are going to be two different things. So it could be that we are sitting in the kitchen and you are making dinner, and they are sitting at the kitchen counter chatting with you, and the refrigerator coolant system turns on. We don't even hear it. We're so used to hearing these things, we just tune them out. Now our loved one who has tinnitus and now doesn't recognize the sound is getting upset because it sounds like something's coming at them. And so it can create a great amount of fear because they don't recognize the sound and we don't recognize it to hear it. Also, echo is a really huge thing if somebody, especially if they're sundowning or if they're dehydrated, can be very scary. Having sound dampening, whether it's furniture, whether it's wall mountings, to reduce the amount of echo in a room is very helpful because it can cause a lot of confusion and a lot of fear in someone with dementia. One of the biggest things that we notice is now I ended up putting, and people, if you ever came to my house, you would see that I have a bunch of pictures on the wall now that are designed to dampen sound, but you wouldn't realize that. You would just see a bunch of pictures because I didn't want to other my dad. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make sure that he felt safe in the house. He also in life had been an interior designer. And so for him, it was like, oh, this is really cool. It looks like something that we did, and away we went. So you can get creative in how you block sound, but then you also have to become a sound detective because if you don't hear it, how can we help them? And it's being able to ask that open-ended question, what are you hearing? I can't hear it. Can you describe it for me so that you can find it? Because you were talking about earlier about the black doormat. Mm-hmm. I've been telling myself, I just wanted clean floors when my dad moved in, and I live in the Pacific Northwest where it rains a lot, and my husband and my dad would go out and they'd prep the garden and do stuff, and they'd track mud in, and then it would go in and out, and it would barrel, and I just wanted it clean. And I would be driving myself crazy to clean it up. So I went down to the hardware store, bought a couple of black doormats, put one on the outside, put one on the inside, asked my husband actually, just wipe your feet when you come in. Just go in front of my dad so he can see it, and then he'll do it too. Because my husband was the anchor of safety for my dad, and he would mimic everything he did. So my husband dutifully came in and he wiped his feet, and then walked into the house. And I'm standing there all excited to see my dad wipe his feet because I'm just like, wait, this is going to work so great. He looks down. He looks at me, just goes, shakes his head, and turns around and walks in through the garage. And I thought, okay, I have no idea what you're telling me. Well, it turned out, he couldn't see it because of the black. So it took a while until I finally, one day, my husband was gone, and I'm sitting there, and I moved it around trying to see if this was like a one-off. Mm-hmm. So I put it in front of a different door, and I was asking my dad, I go, Dad, I can't figure this out. Can you help me? I gave him his agency back right in that moment. I said, would you please tell me what's wrong with the door so I can fix it? And he said, Tracy, if you would just fix the hole, no one would be afraid to walk out the door. don't be afraid to ask your loved one for help, to ask them, can you guide me in this? Because they have tremendous skills. Even though they're losing their memory, that doesn't mean that the problem solving that they could do, they could say, this is what I see. Now, sometimes they can't. If they get so far into the disease that they've lost their language skills, that won't work. But when they're in the moderate stage of the disease, definitely ask them for their help. They'll be glad to share it with you. And then you've returned their agency to them.
Yeah. Well, and I loved how you used your husband for the whole modeling, setting it up, because again, a lot of times they will mimic, what is being done to fit in. And that was brilliant that you asked him, what was what, because a lot of people would have just taken the mat and go, okay, it's going in the garage now, and then the poor guy's going to think he's never going to get back in the house, and things. The other thing you mentioned, which I thought was interesting, was the ringing in the ears. I had never heard anybody say that was really related to dementia. I know seniors tend to get that, but I had not heard that as a defining symptom, or that one that could happen, with people. Not everything happens to everybody, guys. So just keep that, in your box there. But that makes a lot of sense. It makes me a little paranoid about my ringing in my ears right now too. But that does affect my hearing, as I get older, and I have friends. We go out for breakfast typically like once a month, and we have to watch where we go in a restaurant, because half of us can't hear if it's a long table. Now we've decided the round table is really the best, where everybody can kind of read each other's lips and stuff, because our hearing isn't what it used to be at all. And again, for younger people, that's something they typically don't have an issue with. They can typically still hear all the ranges of sound. I know I went in for a hearing check years ago, and they're like, "You're normal." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I know there's certain sounds I'm not hearing like I used to." No, that's the acceptable range. I said, "Well, saying it's the acceptable range and that I don't have an issue, to me, are two different things." Because now I learned that, okay, this is normal, where I just thought, you're crazy and don't know your job, because I know it's different. And, so it's weird things that you do notice as you age, with your body. And those things are important. The other thing you said was about the echoing. And I thought, people at first might get that confused with Echo and Alexa, because they can just yap off at certain times and answer and jump into a conversation. And I've seen that be really scary for people too. Like, who's in the house, and what's going on. Or the television was a big issue for my mom. And I didn't know that until, and some of my audience has probably heard this story before, but I was cleaning out her closet, because she would just throw a fit, because only red and pink clothes belonged in her closet. She did not want any other colors in there. So it's like, okay, I can take care of that. So I'm cleaning out her closet, and all of a sudden she's just like almost hysterically crying, just so frightened. And I'm like, "Mom, I can put this stuff back. You asked me to do, I'll put it back." And she was like, "No, it wasn't that." And then I looked and I saw what was on the TV right next to her. And we were bombing Iraq at the time. Oh. And she thought that was happening right outside our door. I turned the TV off. Within seconds, she was calm. And I had no idea that, and I look at all the news and, the mass shootings and the war and the planes that are almost crashing. I mean, the list just kind of goes on and on and on. Everything's traumatic pretty much on the news, it seems like these days. And, we have to be really careful of what we're letting people watch or listen to, because it is interesting. Some people will say, well, my loved one can't watch a show. They can't comprehend it. But you never know when they can, when those moments of clarity are going to be. And so, we have to, I think we really have to consciously evaluate so much of our environmental surroundings that we just all take for granted. And so these have been wonderful, wonderful tips for people to be able to implement right away and just observe. Now, I wanted to ask you on that meltdown trigger list, is that something they can download from your website then if they go
Yes,
there? Okay.
it's on my website. If you go to the menu and click on useful forms, it'll take you right to it, and then you can just
Okay.
download it. It's a PDF file for free.
Okay. Wonderful. I'm going to start sharing that with my support group people because I think that's brilliant. I never put anything in a form basis. I talk about it, but I think forms can really help people a lot with that. And again, sometimes we're not realizing who or what is making those triggers. And sometimes it's ourselves with the mood we walk into, that they are just mirroring back at us when we're anxious or upset or frustrated, but we have a smile on our face and then we think they don't notice. They still read all of our nonverbals. And I think that that's something that we don't talk enough about either with that. But we need to really look at their nonverbal language and what are they really telling us that they need. And typically what I found, and I don't know about you, but when you're having an issue, it's typically all about safety. They just don't feel safe where they're at in the moment and needing to get to that point. And like you said, it might be taking them out of the room. It might be getting that pillowcase and some socks and saying you're taking the snakes away. I mean, it could be all different types of things. So don't think there's one answer for anything. There's multiples, and do the trial and error. Don't think you're silly at trying different things because we never know what's going to work. And the bottom line is you're still trying to keep the calm or find the calm for them. And isn't that what you'd want someone to do for you?
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Is what I always throw back at people. Any last minute comments?
Well, going back to two things. With the snakes and the hallucinations, also don't forget, if you change the scene by taking them for a quick drive around the block and then just say you're going for an air, I mean, if they're in a throw of fear, just take them for a drive and then say we're home. That usually takes care of it, or I should say that can take care of it. It's just changing that scene. And then also you asked about the people that were naysayers that would not do anything besides the absolute truth. I have 3 questions for you. You don't have to answer them, just go with me on this. The first one is, did your parents teach you to believe in Santa Claus? Did believing in Santa Claus bring you joy? Did you teach your children to believe in Santa Claus? Was there any harm in that?
Wow, that's powerful, Tracy. That really breaks it. That really breaks it down because there are going to be those beliefs. And somebody might say, well, yeah, because when I still believed and then I got picked on, because I was older. Yeah, that's going to happen. But the majority of the time, things went pretty smooth. And it was all about creating joy and a moment to remember. And isn't that what we want to do with our loved ones living with dementia as well? Wow, that was really, really good. Anything else that you want to share?
Oh gosh. I have so many, I just don't even know where to start. I want to go back to the TV really quick.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we did for my dad was we got a remote called the Flipper.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a hard case on it that you can slide off, but it takes two hands to do it so that you, the care partner, can program in your loved one's favorite channels so that if they're watching the television with it in their hand, they don't accidentally change channels and suddenly see the war channel. Because that happened to my dad. He was watching a reenactment of World War II. He lived through World War II. And so he panicked and it turned into a huge deal. But, if you can do that, then they don't have to fight to find their favorite channels because then they can just scan up or down. It also allows them to do volume on or off. Everything else is hidden underneath the plate that you lock and it's battery operated. And it's really easy for your loved one to operate it because it's one solid color and then it's a contrasting color for the buttons. So it's a really easy thing to use for your loved one. And you can get it on Amazon. It's called the Flipper.
That's cool. Would that work for all the different channels? I mean, I look at, now you got Netflix and, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Because I think that's an issue that we're personally having right now. And I've just been kind of like, let's go to Little House on the Prairie instead of Crazy Moms, Crazy Dancers Moms, it's kind of like a mini Dr. Phil, or Jerry Springer show, where everybody's fighting. That doesn't keep the calm, in the room.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I have two things that I teach when I do classes.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is for when you have had an emotional incident with somebody where they have blown up at you and you both need that time out. Have you ever done boxed breathing?
I do a certain type of breathing, but I don't think it's the box breathing. But I've heard about it. So why don't you give us a little tutorial of that?
Okay, so what box breathing is, you breathe in for 4 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
you hold your breath for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and then you hold your breath for 4 seconds. And you repeat that cycle until you calm down. It can take up to 5 minutes. Here's the thing. If you've had a traumatic event, then you reverse it because when you've been traumatized, we gulp air in. Mm-hmm. And so you would want to actually breathe out first, then hold your breath and then breathe in. So that's the only difference if it's a traumatic event. If it's something where you've just had an argument trying to get somebody to bathe and you just need to walk away for 5 minutes, the beauty of this exercise is if you put a timer on your phone and you do this up to 5 times a day, in 6 months, it'll lower your blood pressure. If you do it longer than 10 minutes, you'll get a tingly, euphoric sensation. You have too much oxygen in your bloodstream. You need to stop. Also, if you choose to do this, for 6 months, tell your doctor so they can lower your blood pressure medication so you don't pass out.
Okay.
That's item 1. Item 2 is laughter yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I find that if we did laughter yoga in the morning, if we just sat down and because it's full body movements, and you can find it on YouTube. Go on YouTube, type in laughter yoga. There's hundreds of exercises on there, anywhere from like 5 minutes to an hour. But it combines movement and laughter and breathing, and it's releases the endorphins, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin. And I found that with my dad, if we got him laughing, we had a much better behavior day because then he was in a good mood all day long.
Mm-hmm. Which makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a ton of sense. Oh, wonderful. Well, again, Tracy, you are absolutely brilliant. I do want you to talk a little bit about your homeware for soft care and your book. We need to do plugs for both of those. Okay.
So I'll start with the book first. Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After is a toolbox for caregivers. It has an 8-page table of contents. You run your finger down the page till you find the challenge of the moment. Turn to that page. It has some explanation and things to try. And as Lori stated earlier, as the disease progresses, the solutions you have today might not work tomorrow, but it gives you things to try all the way through from diagnosis to beyond death so that you know what you need to do step by step and you don't have to guess. Because the worst part for me was guessing and I was always wrong. Hardware for Soft Care is a program I am developing. It is not out in the real world yet, but it is coming. And it is a program to teach you how to make your home more dementia friendly. You will actually get to walk in your loved one's footsteps through each room of your house or a house to see how they perceive the house. And then I will explain in the videos how to make your house more dementia friendly. And then you'll be able to choose what items match your budget. So it's one of those things where you can learn step by step. You don't have to do everything all at once. And you can actually become a detective and understand what your loved one's going through.
Fantastic. I just think that's such a cool idea that you're doing. So I can't wait till you fully launch that. That is for sure. Well, thank you again for spending so much time with us today, Tracy. I really appreciate it. You give us so much value, so much information, and just in a fun, simple way to understand why these things work and why it's important to know. For our audience, I just want to ask you to be a giver of hope. Like, click, and share. Spread the word. More people need to hear about Tracy's work, her book, and this new project she's working on, Hardware for Soft Care. She's absolutely brilliant. She'll make your life easier and share her tips with others. And don't forget to go to her website, which is TracyCramPerkins.com, and download that meltdown trigger list. I think that's going to save you a million times over, because it's going to get your mindset thinking in a different direction in terms of how to prevent things and realistically get to the bottom of the issue. You can't fix something if you don't really know what the source of contention is that's causing the problem. So thank you all so much. And last, I always give a plug for Alzheimer Speaks and Dementia Map. Please feel free to visit them both. And again, Tracy's website is TracyCramPerkins.com. She's also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn under Tracy Cram Perkins as well. Thanks so much, everyone. Till next time.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Bye-bye.